Smith. So I guess we'll do some Q&As. Any questions? Cassandra, I can pass the mic. Great. So crying.
Looks perfect. I read the book in 10 hours. It was amazing. I feel like this is the best adaptation of a book ever. I can't stop crying. And my question, I have a couple questions, but I'll ask one. At the end of the book, they still moved. So why did you choose to change that?
Yeah, that was something that I actually did at the last minute. I really felt like, and I had a talk with Angie about that very early. Angie was very involved from the beginning because I really wanted to capture the spirit. So she came out to Los Angeles. We sat down with the writer, and I told her I wanted to make a couple changes. Like Devontae, the character Devontae is not in the movie. I felt like there was too many characters. I wanted to give Seth a little bit more. At the end, I felt like what the community really need is people really coming together, putting back things back into the community. So I felt like that change was very important for our story. And when I talked to Angie, she was okay with that. But I really believe that's how our community stay connected and stay strong. So that's why that change was there.
Hi, my name's Victoria, and watching this movie, I mean, it's exhausting and drained, but it's our life that we live, unfortunately. But I want to know how was it to be on set and to go over these scenes, and was it emotionally exhausting, and also was there help for you guys during the process of a mental and a spiritual level to get through shooting this film?
I think we moved through the process of shooting the way that we always move through things, which is with a lot of joy and levity, despite the circumstances. I felt like the process of making this film was almost a process of processing and mourning and holding the space to grieve. And I think that we felt that the entire time. So although it was really emotionally taxing and draining, there was this sense of holding the space to honor the lives of those who have fallen victim to police brutality. I also felt like we found a lot of community within each other, and so we had a lot of love and support present just within the entire cast and crew. There was so much love, and everyone had their intention in the right place. I think intention is everything.
Yeah! That's written by a
the whole idea of adaptation and honoring a book and the source material. I know you talked about, there was a question about changing the, someone asked about changing the end, but I want to know a bit more about how you became involved with it, a little bit about Angie and how you all connected around the material.
Yeah, that came quick because, you know, like in certain places, like certain producers can get books really quick. Like Scott Root gets books fast. Sometimes Darren Ariansky get books like from like 50 years ago to develop things. So you just got to find your end. For some reason, this book just sort of came. I got it published. UTA was controlling it. I'm at CAA, but I was able to read it quickly. I was actually working on a show. I was working on Luke Cage with Cheo. We worked on Notorious together. So, but I was working in the daytime and I had to read the book very quickly. So what I did was right away, looked at the book, figure out the themes, figure out the plot, figure out the characters, and I quickly got on the phone with Angie, who was still in Jackson, Mississippi. She's the author of the book, yeah. So at the same time, Amandla was reading it, and we sort of just teamed up together very, very early on. But that process of just sitting down with the writer, who was Audrey Wells, she got involved with Angie. We sat down, I would lay all the pages out, I would go through all the books, mark sections. I would just pretty much do that for 3 or 4 weeks. Then we had a script, gave it to Angie, then we had a new writer that came in, Tina Mabry, that did some awesome job for us. And me and Amandla started talking about, we pretty much started talking about the character for 8 months. Just really talking it through, and so that's the process.
So did you become involved, did you read the book and say, I have to be a part of this? Did you all build it together? Were you cast after the fact? Were you a part of making it? Tell us about your journey with it.
It was pretty collaborative from the jump. I think I was in my senior year of high school, it was at the end of my senior year of high school, and I found out about the book, and it was because my mom has a friend who's a young adult author who had been hearing a lot of buzz about this particular project that highlighted the events of the Black Lives Matter movement, but was through this personal narrative, this 16-year-old girl who is code switching between different environments. And she passed it along to me because she said that the character's life events reminded her of mine. And at that time, my agency had their hands on the unpublished manuscript. And we knew that the book would be successful. We didn't know that it would be what it is. It's been incredible to see the response, but at that point I chased it really hard because I fell in love with the book the moment I read it. I felt like it was such a special window into Blackness, into existing as a contemporary Black American, which is a nuanced experience. It has a lot of complexities to it, and oftentimes I think we get very simplified and kind of pigeonholed in the representations we're afforded. So that was already speaking so much to my heart, so I chased it, and they were already starting to package the film, and they were interested in me for it, just because I think maybe some of the ideas that I have spoken about to them kind of were representative of Star's ideas, or at least the person she becomes at the end of the story. So I attached at the end of my senior year of high school, and we went through the whole process together, me and George in the studio, constructing Star. I was guarding the book. I was guarding the book vigilantly. I was like, you better not touch a single, it was like my child, I was like, you better not touch a single hair on the book's head. But we went through that whole process together, and worked with Audrey and Tina on writing the script. And then I actually had a re-audition process once the script was finished, because I think everyone realized how paramount it was that Star was represented correctly, and so I was just put through the fire one more time. Not to call out George. I basically had to prove that I was capable of doing it, and that Star was in my heart, and it worked.
It did work. It worked very well. One of the things I loved about the film was the instant connection that the two of you had. That scene in the car. Let's go back. Party when he walks through.
He's still like a brown-skinned Moses.
Yeah, brown skin. create this connection. And really, as I was watching, I was like, God, that really wasn't a lot of screen time. It's so impactful. And he just stays with you through the whole thing. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how you, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at that. Talk a little bit about how you were able to make that connection so quickly. What were the ideas on how you would build that? I love the way it's shot. It's just very simple shots in the car. It's your eyes and the connection. How did it go? What did you all do?
I think it was just the eyes. No, to be honest, I think it was, George took a lot of time preparing with us in rehearsal time, doing a lot of unconventional exercises, I guess you could call it. But I think it's just the attention to detail that he took and the time that he took that made that chemistry happen. She's already an amazing person. I feel like I'm a pretty cool guy. So it wasn't really hard for us to connect, but to have that in a little amount of time come across screen and to last, it was a hard thing to do. But I feel like because of his direction and the way he guided us, it just worked out perfectly.
One of the things that really impresses me with this film, I kind of think, I grew up on, there wasn't a lot of black teenage films at the time that I grew up way back in the day. So I remember like Breakfast Club and 16 Candles and looking at those girls and Ferris Bueller's Day Off and the teen movie of that time, just being like, you want a day off from school. And our films right now for our young people in the times that we're in that are so strenuous and tense and filled with strife and uncertainty really have to speak to the time that we're in. Certainly when you have kids of color, sometimes I'm warned that it can't just be a teenage film, it's just, you did a teenage film about a girl who couldn't go out of her house, I like that one. But she also had a serious issue too, right? It's like, but for this, like the mix of teen drama and the real current events and the tone of that. The fact that something like the shooting can exist in the same movie where the white boy comes on the lawn and talks about mac and cheese, right? How are you able to balance the tone of it so that they both exist in the same movie in the genre?
Well, for me, when I talk to these guys, I always, and I told Angie this, I said, if it's a YA book. When it came to me, he said it's a YA book. And then I looked at it and I said, I didn't really see it as a YA movie. Even though it represents for young people, I'm in my 40s. So I see it as a young 16-year-old protagonist who goes through adult issues. So it really felt like adult for me. And I always felt like young people are always smarter and always ahead. So that was my approach to it. And my first approach was just instinctively when Amanda was telling me living in Inglewood and went to a white private school. I felt that very early on when I switched from one public school to another. It was completely different. So my aesthetics changed when she's in Williamson than when she's in Gern Heights. Everything completely changed. The behavior, the way she talked, we broke that down in behavior, how she's more like Mav in Gern Heights, and how you see things. So that was all aesthetics that I feel that it's adult issues trying to be, when you're the witness, what do you say? How do you deal with King? How do you deal with snitching? All that is all in the movie, and how do you deal with race relationship? The shooting is the catalyst for all these conversations, and I saw all these layers, and I was like, I've been making films since '97, been at Fox, made 15 movies, you don't really have these kind of issues what Angie brought in her book, so I just felt like as a filmmaker, I was really able to tap in from an adult situation, and I allowed these guys to bring those external ideas to make it feel useful and make it feel current. So that was how that approach was for me.
I think there's something about these kind of films where it can be issue-oriented and feel like medicine. And what you all did really well is tonally, it is enjoyable to watch. Like the first 15 minutes, it's like, well, there's music, it's cool, you watch it, there's romance, there's all these different tones that you all were able to really balance in the film that I think is trying for this film. It's not an easy film to make, so I just wanted to compliment you on that and ask a little bit about, how you went into it to make sure that it didn't turn into that kind of, very Lifetime movie. Nothing wrong with Lifetime movie. Issue-oriented. Ain't nothing wrong with Lifetime movie. Lifetime called me, I will make movies. Issue-oriented thing, you brought the levity, the love, the family, the warmth, that you made to get?
It was just instinctively, the work, actually a filmmaker, just before the film was actually a question about making films and how do you progress and continue with your vision. For some reason, all the movies that I've done, usually there's a lot of research. I mean, we talked for about 8 months. We rehearsed for 3.5, 2.5, 3 weeks. You know, my AD actually, he's over there. I see him right there in the corner. Like, even the background with the protests. I mean, we had 400 people at night. All those guys got all my background, my bios. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were very respected to Amandla's process. This is one of the first times where everything was just instinctively just came out because I'm black. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm African American, I experienced that. So it wasn't watching any movies. I didn't watch any movies for this. We watched YouTube. We watched the Charlotte riots, which was based downtown. We watched Ferguson. We talked to a lot of people. We hung out with each other. We talked about our experience, and that was where the material came from for me. And that's how you hold on to that vision. And I think that maintains what we're looking for, what we're trying to get across.
Okay. One of the things that I love about it is the family in this. And there's so many beautiful cast members in it, folks that we love. But I want you to talk a little bit about your connection with Russell Hornsby. Between the two of you, gave me chills again and again, whether it's the scene on the lawn, whether it's the scene just him coming into the bedroom, laying on his lap. Those small things that you all found together, that's not automatic. That stuff is not instant. That comes from actors that are able to bring that warmth, that connection. How was it working with you together, and what did you find, Kel?
Oh man, he was such an incredible mentor to me. I think oftentimes our relationship reflected that of Starry Mavs, in that he would guide me and teach me lessons, but never directly. It was like he would plant the Easter eggs for me and then allow me to find them and learn things without ever, being patronizing or knocking me over the head with something that I should do. And that came to my performance. I think he taught me a lot, was a guiding hand for my performance. It came to operating on set, how to be in that environment, how to be a professional, how to commit yourself fully. He was constantly giving me amazing lessons, but in a way that I think a father would, allowing me to grow and learn independently of him, but always having a guiding hand.
This film reminds me of one of my favorite Langston Hughes poems. There's a line, we wear the mask, about the ways that we are with ourselves, within our community, and the ways that we are when we go outside of our community, particularly my experiences in the Black community. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the two worlds that you created, and what you think the revealing those two worlds to people who are not Black might do. I think that there'll be a lot of Black people who will see this film, a lot of non-Black people who will see this film, who are not aware that code switching exists, are not aware that think that when she leaves her white school, she's like, oh. And when I talk to white friends, they're shocked when you even talk. There's a word for that? It's called, there's a phrase, it's a thing. What do you think the value is in revealing that and talking about that and making sure that the larger society is aware of these two faces that people of color or people who are marginalized in many ways have to wear? What's the value of revealing that, taking that out?
I think there's some value in even understanding the amount of mental and emotional work that goes into code switching. That's a huge part of, I think, what takes a mental toll on us as Black people. I think, white people or non-Black people being exposed to that, understanding that our lives are nuanced. We're very smart people. We know how to be chameleons. We understand that the way that we present ourselves authentically might not be conducive to our success because we exist amidst white institutions. And so I think a self-awareness being an awareness of that experience when approaching us would be helpful. You know, if non-Black people are able to understand that that is the line that we consistently walk, maybe they'll have more of a sensitivity to our experiences, or at least be able to conceptualize of us as multidimensional beings who are not just one stereotype or one trope that is often perpetuated by the media.
Big thing in it. You know, I think it's challenging for me to see a film that deals with making, also with Central Park 5 right now, which deals with trauma to the Black body and trauma to our Black boys. And even while making it, I know that I'm going to have to put people who care about the story through the trauma of watching it again. But I think we have to weigh where the value is. Beyond just the sensationalism of seeing it. This film does so many layers in terms of teaching us lessons of all different kinds, and that code switching and the masks that we wear was such a big part of that for me, something I really took away from it. What is your greatest hope for this picture, George?
Well, that was a conversation I remember back in January. Me and Amandla had a conversation. I actually called up Algee too. Right around January, right when I was finishing up the director's cut, we had an issue with one of our actors that played Chris, and something came up in YouTube that he said about 7 years ago, and it really just killed me because I was feeling good with the director's cut. Fox was behind the movie, and then this popped up. So Amanda was just coming back from a needed vacation because you just finished 3 movies back to back. And me and her just immediately, like, we need to make this change. And Algee, I remember I called Algee and let him know, even though you didn't have any scenes with him, we just felt like we had to go back in. Going back in was 7 days, going into the uprising, the riots, going back into these scenes and replacing this, because we felt like what we wanted to do is make sure that the film get back out to the audience to have conversation, be able to talk. How are we able to heal? You know, Tupac philosophy was in 93 and 94, all that is still going on. How can we go past that? So we had to replace that actor that brought in KJ, who we wanted to bring in originally, and he was just great. But it was tough for 7 days for Amanda to get back into that emotional space. Thank God 90% of our crew came back, and he's pretty much in the movie, but it was seamless because I think we made the right choice. And the choice is for the audience to take it in and take in all these messages to be able to do something. So that's what we hope will happen with the film.
You hope that people will watch it and do something. Okay. Like what?
Talk about it, right? Talk, conversation, code switch, and have an understanding, how we able to relate, how we able to talk to one another. Those are one of the big issues. You know, police brutality, how we able to, Chanel Bell says it in the movie, we use her line, you know, our skin is our color. This is what Common is seeing with the police officer when he says these things, and how we look and bias it with ourselves. Those are the most important thing. How do you do that? It won't change overnight, but to have conversations. These are the things that Fox were open to support. Thank God we have great women behind, you know, it's in terms of greenlighting the movies, Stacey Snyder, Elizabeth Gabler, Emma Watts. These are women who wanted to do something and allow us to make our movie. So what you see is our version of the film. No extra changes or anything. This is what we want to do.
I know something that we can do. Vote in the midterms. Vote. Contribute to your democracy.
To say, it is, there are a number of films coming out this fall that have Black people in it. And every year, and I'm a long time, this is my home festival, Urban World, and every year the festival invites the films from the fall that have people of color in it to the festival. And not everyone answers that call. But this film, the filmmakers, the studio, and the stars of the film answer the call. And that's something that I respect and thank you for. We're grateful for you bringing the film, coming, flying out, and actually respecting this audience, this community, and being a part of the Urban World Film Festival. at the top. Shout it out.
Okay, so I read the book. My 15-year-old daughter read the book. She couldn't be here today, but she texted me a question. She's on a preview, and she said she wants to know the answer to this question. And I told her I'd ask you, so thank you for picking it. So my 15-year-old wants to know, why did you make Salil jokingly reach for his comb instead of sticking to him leaning over to ask Sarge he was okay? Then you can tell them that sorry. Then you can tell them that it gives skeptics a reason to defend the pastor really
Yeah, that's a very great question. That was something that was in the book, and Angie really wanted to, she based that off an incident. And I felt like, you know, the difference that I really loved is that Star got to talk very early. And what I love is that first scene is you see a young father with braids and a tattoo. So you immediately think he's a drug dealer or he's a gang member, but he's a guy who's a father. He taught her. Khalil was a single parent, did not have that conversation, did not know any of these things. Even though he's aware how it works in society, he's been through this situation with his mom, but that talk wasn't instilled in him. So that movement was just something not having that. So those are the small nuances that we talked about early on, and also it's based off the incident as well.
We have time for two questions, two more questions, one right there, ma'am. Go ahead, yep.
Hi, sorry for that. I want to say first, thank you so much for shining light on such a wonderful and well-written book that is so important for the community right now. My name is Sierra Chanel, and I'm a BFA actor at Montclair State University, as well as my friend right here, Cole, who saved me as well. But the question I want to ask is, when I'm acting, I'm doing a project, I never walk away from a project the same way that I started. So I want to know how you guys changed and how you molded on the course of this entire movie. Okay.
Great question. Hey, shout out to your friend too. I feel like I honestly feel the same way. Every time I leave a set, I leave different. Whether it's a gaining of knowledge, or whether it's a realization of self, or just something more that I want to do with my life. I feel like with this specific film, it was a challenge to me. You know, honestly, because it's like us as entertainers, it's easy to be an entertainer, but you don't see a lot of entertainers saying something. You know what I'm saying? So this is our way of getting past the tickling ears and the making your eyes happy and actually speaking a message that hits your soul, the soul food. But to be honest, it's like I walked away from this with more knowledge because throughout the whole film, on the walls of rehearsal, we had almost every instance of police brutality that has taken place within the last 20 years almost. So we had to look at that and we walked into our table reads, and so it just gave me a realization and a reassurance of I'm doing the right thing, but also I got so much further to go and so much more to keep talking about because this ain't it. So I feel like the same as you. I never leave a project the same way, and this just gave me an extra spark of inspiration to keep talking and stay loud.
I think it was, with this one, it was impossible to, at least for me, it was almost impossible to create a boundary between the way the events in the story made me feel and reality, because they were reflective of reality. So I think because of that, we approached it with a different sense of weight. And I think I did leave having a lot of residual feelings around the process. We came back for reshoots, and I was driving, and I accidentally drove past the spot where we filmed Khalil's shooting. And I had to pull over because I realized it wasn't safe for me to keep driving because I was having such a deep-rooted emotional response to even driving past that place. Because, I don't think our subconsciouses can really make a distinction between memories that are real, memories that are fabricated. But also because the process of filming those scenes didn't feel like just portraying a piece of fiction, portraying a scene. It felt like a space and time to think deeply, emotionally, and analytically about these events that are so pervasive within the Black community. And that's real pain, and that's something that is not fabricated, and that it was our jobs to be conduits for. So I think I walked away with a little bit of residual trauma, but if anything, I had just opened up a well of feeling when it comes to the pain that we experience within our community, and I've been forced to look at it and look it directly in the face. As you see portrayed by the scene in which Mav talks about the prison industrial complex. He talks about the pain that we feel because of the systems that we're forced into. So I walked away with that, more pain, but a deeper understanding. And I also walked away, I think, with more pride, knowing that we had done this and that we were capable of doing this, and that in the process of making this film, we were protesting the exact thing that we didn't believe in. We were protesting police brutality. So there were a lot of moments within filming that felt kind of meta, where we were portraying a scene, but also through our actions, we had the cognizance that we were doing something that would hopefully be impactful.
Good time to wrap. Thank you very much. Let's
Thank y'all.
Tell everybody to go see the movie. Tweet about the movie. Tweet about it. Thank you.